Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona, and welcome to the December 8th edition of Horses to Watch, where we carefully analyze trips looking for horses that might have encountered adversity on their prior starts and could be worth betting back when they run in the future. Well, turf season is over in New York, so I'm going to veer away from talking about any turf races on this episode because we won't be having any turf racing in the New York area for the next 4 months or so. So a lot of the horses that did have trips on the turf this past week, the final week of turf racing in New York, are probably not going to be able to run back on this circuit for a little while. Maybe they'll ship down south. We'll see. You might want to check out a race from Friday, a maiden race where a horse, Martini's Amica, got a real trip, got banged around at the quarter pole. That's the one turf horse I would really highlight from this past week, but just not really sure where she'll get to run again in the near future. So the focus of this show is going to be on some dirt races from this past week. And we're actually going to talk about two of the stakes races from last Saturday's Cigar Mile card, including that feature race, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. Let's start with race 9 from that Cigar Mile day, the Grade 2 Demoiselle for the 2-year-old fillies, going the 2-turn mile and an eighth. Let's break these runners from the gate, and I want to focus on the number 6, Tap the Faith. This is a second-time starter who was coming off a debut victory at Belmont Park, where she had seemingly gotten a good education, but sometimes horses can only learn so much from their debuts, and it's a real shock to the system when they face winners for the first time. And I think that's the case with Tap the Faith, because as you can see heading into the clubhouse turn here, she broke a step slowly, but the pace is going to start to slow down, and between horses in those yellow and orange silks, she just gets really rank under Javier Castellano. You can see he's trying to get a good hold of her to stop her from running up on horses' heels. In front of her, she has to steady a little bit, and she's just kind of refusing to settle down for the first quarter to 3/8 of a mile of this race. And that's really not something that you want to have happen with a horse that's stretching out in distance for the first time, and especially with a 2-year-old that is trying this very demanding mile and an eighth distance over a demanding Aqueduct surface. You just don't want to see them fighting their riders at all, because they need every bit of that stamina to be successful in this kind of race, going that 2 turns. And this is also a race. It featured a faster pace than the Remsen, which was run over the same distance, but it's still not like they're moving that quickly up front. And it should be noted that the 3 horses who are most successful in this race, the number 7 Magic Circle, the number 3 Venti Valentine, and the number 5 Nest, they are all horses that kind of end the race clean, having to not deal with any kickback. They're just horses that had unencumbered runs into the race, whereas Tap the Faith, you can see her back in 5th now. She's on the inside. She was kind of behind horses taking dirt in her face for the entirety of this race. Javier is now trying to get her back into the race after some horses moved away from her around the far turn, but he's trying to angle her out here. But you can see as they get into the stretch, she's hanging on her wrong lead. She's on the left lead, and you can see Javier Castellano trying to shift his weight a few times to get her to switch over to that right lead, but it's just not happening, and he ends up kind of shifting his weight enough that she goes back to the inside right here, and that's probably not what you want to do, having a horse drift into the stretches. They're trying to make up some ground, and even as they come to the wire, she's still on that left lead. All in all, she really did not improve at all on her debut, which, as I said, was a good effort, where she impressively came home in some fast time to win that first start at Belmont over a good horse, a Mo Ray, who came back to win her next start at Aqueduct this past week. But I just think Tap the Faith really had too much thrown at her in the second start and is likely to benefit from this Demoiselle experience. She is a horse that's cut out to go this far, being a daughter of Tapit, with plenty of stamina on the dam side. Her dam embellished the actually won the mile and a quarter Alabama. So I think that this $1 million yearling purchase definitely has some upside, but just has some things to figure out, and that'll be the job of trainer Christophe Clement. But we're likely to see her make some noise in stakes in the future. Let's move on to the feature race from that Saturday card, the Grade 1 Cigar Mile, the final Grade 1 in the New York area for this year. And we're going to break these horses from the gate and talk about one of the 3-year-olds in this race, but not the 2 that attracted the most attention after the race. Those are the 2 Todd Pletcher trainees, the number 1 Following Sea and the number 3 American Revolution. They'll complete the exacta here, but as you saw just highlighted there, I want to focus on the number 7 Olympiad, who runs a deceptively strong 4th in this race. Now, the Cigar Mile featured a faster pace than the other 1-mile graded stakes race that was run on this card, which was run in dazzling fashion by Lady Rocket, who just ran away from some overmatched foes in the Gopher Wand. And these Cigar Mile horses, they do go about 2/5 of a second faster to the half mile and over a second faster to the 3/4 fraction, the 6 furlong fraction of this race. So that suggests that these horses horses, as they're moving down the backstretch, are going to really pick up the pace moving around the far turn. And you're going to see that happen visually here as Following C, who runs an excellent race, is setting the pace right now. But Ginobili to his outside is going to start turning up the pressure right here. And look at the number 7 Olympiad, who's in those dark purple and yellow silks, 3 wide, moving around the far turn here. You could see the entire field is kind of coming off the bridle behind these top 2. The winner of American Revolution is under a full-out drive already coming to the top of the stretch. But look at Irad Ortiz's body language in that yellow cap on the number 7 Olympiad. It's almost like he's just kind of giving up prematurely. He senses those horses are running away from him around the far turn. He does not really set this horse down until they're well into the stretch. And I think Irad just kind of underestimated how much horse he had left on Olympiad, because he leaves the screen right here like he's going to finish way off the board in this race in 6th or 7th. But once Irad takes the stick out and gives him a couple taps coming down the stretch, Olympiad suddenly re-engages and actually gets past Code of Honor, who had run right by him at the top of the stretch to get up for 4th in this race, only beaten a length for 3rd. And if you watch the gallop out, he actually gallops out past the winner heading into the clubhouse turn. So I think Olympiad ran better than it seems in this race, and still finishing 4th. I think he got a 98 buyer for this performance. So he is one of many 3-year-olds coming out of the Cigar Mile that has real upside for next year. And it should also be noted, the Bill Mott barn has just been in a real slump throughout this entire Aqueduct meeting. He had some horses run on that Saturday card at Aqueduct, which just really underperformed, some disappointing efforts. And Olympiad actually kind of ran through that barn slump to do well to be 4th in the Cigar Mile. And I think he still has some upside for when he turns 1 year older next year as a 4-year-old. So he's one that I would follow into next season. Let's finish up by talking about one race from the closing day of that fall meet at Aqueduct, December 5th, that Sunday card. We're going to talk about race 7. It's a New York bred maiden special weight for the 2-year-olds, going 6.5 furlongs on the dirt. Let's break these runners from the gate, and I'm going to focus on a first-time starter for the Rob Atras barn, the number 7 Impressionist. And you can see in those yellow silks, the gray horse towards the back of the pack, he just gets bounced around between horses and spots the field a good 3 lengths coming out of the starting gate. That's really not what you want to see happen for a first-time starter. That's a really negative debut experience. And this is not a race that really plays to horses trying to make up ground from the back of the pack. And as you can see, it's a pretty large field of New York breds. I think there were 12 runners signed on in total. So Impressionist from this starting point has a lot of ground to make up, but you're going to see he actually passes a lot of horses to do pretty well in this race. Now, this is a runner that I have been interested in before the race because he had been working deceptively well coming into this. He's a homebred for Twin Creek Stables, who actually did campaign his sire, Mission Impossible, but there's a lot of dam side pedigree for this horse. He's a half-brother to Arkansas Derby runner-up Conquest Mo Money, so he's bred to be a good one, and you can see towards the back of the pack here, he's starting to pass horses, but it's not like they're making it easy on him because he's got to alter course a few times, come in between horses. Now Kendrick Carmouche angles him all the way to the outside, and you can see at the top of the stretch when he comes into view, this horse is just completely covered in dirt and kickback, so a lot of adversity to overcome for a first-time starter negotiating that traffic, overcoming the slow break, running through the kickback, but he never stops charging in the stretch here, and he's actually going to get up for 3rd by the time they cross the wire, and it feels like this was a reasonably strong maiden race. The winner had run well in his debut, setting a fast pace. The runner-up and the 4th place finisher, a Rudy Rodriguez trainee and a Steve Asmussen first-time starter, they were also firsters that had been touted coming into this race. And I think Impressionist of the first-time starters, arguably around the best race of all to get up for 3rd after that poor start. So Rob Atras, a trainer that's not really known for excelling with his youngsters, especially on their career debuts. So I think this is one that if he could figure out that start issue, I think he's one that's going to do much better second time out, and there'll be plenty of opportunities for him to compete against New York breds in this winter meet at Aqueduct. So he's one that I would definitely look forward to next time out, maybe also stretching out in distance because there's plenty of stamina breeding on the bottom side of his pedigree. Well, that's all the horses to watch for this week. Remember, if you want to follow these horses in the future, you can add them to your horse watch on DRF.com. Just add these horses to a list and you'll get email notifications when these horses run back in the future. Thanks for tuning in this week, and make sure to catch future episodes of Horses to Watch on upcoming Wednesdays.